Hello, Clement29 here with another Topic of the Week video. It's been a while since I've done a Legend of Korra topic, and I decided to do another Legend of Korra video. Now I'm also going to be trying to get to more Legend of Korra videos, because I know a lot of people like hearing me talk about Legend of Korra, and criticizing it, and also talking about The Last Airbender. So I'm going to start trying to do more topics about that, since I have plenty in my list of topics to do. This one is from thealmightypinkone, Tumblr user thealmightypinkone, and this is about between Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. The characters and the story, like which show had better story and better character arc and development. This isn't even a competition. Avatar: The Last Airbender wins on all accounts. But let me... just the idea of, asking this, I mean, we all know that The Last Airbender blows Legend of Korra away in terms of everything. But let me go by this. Better story. Okay. Let's look at the breakup of the stories. Avatar: The Last Airbender has a very simple overall plot. The plot is stop the Fire Lord in the 100-Year War. And that's it. That's really it. The plot for Avatar: The Last Airbender is simple as hell. And this is where the beauty comes in. It doesn't matter how simple a plot is, because it's all about how well it's written. And Avatar: The Last Airbender was written really well. Sorry. Still feeling a little sick. I actually even contemplated not even doing a video, but I couldn't let people down. So it's really this is one of the things that why I respect the writing team of Avatar: The Last Airbender so much. They took a simple concept, a simple overall the spanning overarching story is so ridiculously simple, and they took that and they made something really special out of it. They fleshed out the characters, they fleshed out a lot of the stories individually, and a lot of filler episodes. We got so many great just individual stories that built up the universe, and that's what really makes it better. Legend of Korra has some interesting ideas for an overall plot for book 1. The other ones are just haphazardly thrown together. The overarching plot of book 1 is vastly more interesting than the overarching plot, not just of book 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but the overarching story. Amon is so much more interesting than Ozai as a villain, until he was ruined, but the concept of his character is so much more interesting, and he's voiced by Steve Bloom. Come on. You have the non-bender revolution, the Equalists, and then you have him with the ability to remove bending, and holy crap, we have all this crazy stuff going on. If you had asked me up to episode 3 or 4, the revelation and the Voice in the Night, if I liked Legend of Korra better than Avatar: The Last Airbender, I might have said yes. We had a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. The Equalists were so interesting. Just the average Equalist soldier could take on Korra and Mako and Bolin and just wipe the floor with all of them. That's pretty freaking awesome. We're expanding the concept of chi blocking. and then it was all tossed in the trash because Brian and Mike didn't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, this is really an example of having such a great idea ruined by bad writers. So overall story, while book 1 of Legend of Korra And then, you have the following seasons. Book 2 was stupid in every account. Like, some ideas could have been interesting, could have, but they weren't, and they were completely ruined from the very beginning. Unalak was an awful villain, doesn't even deserve to be mentioned. Book 3, The Red Lotus. Yeah, we're just going to pull this conflicting organization to the White Lotus completely out of nowhere. We're just going to pull if there was a mention of stuff of them in Book 1 or even Book 2, I would have accepted this more if they had established this stuff in Book 2. Give some use to it, but they didn't. They just throw these characters out, and people are like, well, these characters are so cool. They're really not. They're bland, they're boring, and they're just downright uninteresting. And they didn't have any good writing to them. And Zahir, oh gosh, Zahir. Zahir is just one of those villain, Sues. He just does stuff. Maybe he's not exactly a villain Sue, but the way he does stuff is he's literally a villain made of plot conveniences. Oh, he just happens to be studying airbending, and he just happens to get the powers of airbending, and he just happens to be, despite the fact that he's pretty much been starved for the last decade in jail, he somehow has enough strength to break out of prison. And this isn't like, Iroh, because Iroh was specifically building his strength to do that. This guy is just like, I'm a master airbender now, and it's like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Then you have Kavir. Kavir was a cool idea. Executed very poorly. Again, she's like a mom. You have so many cool ideas, executed poorly. She could have been the idea of someone who's meaning well slipping into madness for control, while everyone around her basically just kind of screws her over. It's a villain created by the heroes, but no, she just has to be pure evil. And Korra's just like, yo, you're a bad person. And she's just like, oh, I'm such a bad person. I forget. I'm so sorry. Better character arc and development. Avatar: Last Airbender wins hands down. Let me talk about my boy Zuko. Let me talk about Zuko's character arc. Zuko has hands down, the best character arc in the entirety of the show. Over the 3 seasons that they did, he grew the most, and he had the most interesting development story, if at times frustrating. Zuko starts off in Book 1 as a villain. Just a villain. When you're first introduced to him, you think this guy is going to be just some pathetic nobody villain, right? He's just some sort of... he's cruel, he's selfish, he's just a dick, and yeah, he's like 15 or 16 or something, but he's still just a dick. You look at him and you're like, he's willing to hurt people, destroy villages, probably even kill people as long as it means regaining his honor back by capturing the Avatar. But over Book 1, we start seeing these things, especially in the Blue Spirit, how Zuko isn't as two-dimensionally evil as you would think at first. And even then, you know that he has a sympathetic goal. He wants to regain his honor. He's been disgraced. He's been exiled. And who wants that? You can at least feel sorry for him. But then you start seeing more sympathetic sides to him when he rescues Aang. Especially the moment where Aang is basically like, if we met in a different time, do you think we could have been friends? And it's just... And that's one of the beauties of Avatar: The Last Airbender, is that these characters have so much deeper emotions to them. And Legend of Korra just misses that. They just miss these great character interactions for the sole sake of pushing whatever plot they wanted at the time. Book 2 is where we really get some great stuff with Zuko, especially with him running off on his own, and him and Iroh, they're as outcasts, and this is where we really start seeing, Zuko start moving from villain to maybe anti-hero, especially in Zuko alone. You know, there's just in Zuko's growth, and it led to the ultimately frustrating season 2 finale, where Zuko betrays everyone to side with Azula, and gosh dang it, Zuko. But then in book 3, he finally gets around about halfway through book 3, just decides to side with the Avatar. And he becomes part of the gang, and you know, it was a long time in the coming. And it was so great, and watching that evolution from villain to maybe more anti-villain or anti-hero to be more neutral than to be an actual hero in the end. It's so fantastic, and it really pisses me off that the stupid comics like The Promise backslid his character development almost to book 1. That's why I hate those comics. But compare, like, even Korra. Korra is supposed to be the main character of Avatar: The Last Air... Of Legend of Korra. I'm really tired right now. But her character development was entirely circular. Circular. She develops, and she goes back. She develops a little bit, and she goes back. She makes some progress, and she goes back. And you guarantee by the beginning of each season, she's pretty much where she was at the beginning of last season. Which means she is pretty much, by the end of the show, she's pretty much where she was in book 1, episode 1. She's just a little more beaten down. And that's not character growth. That's just punishment. Korra's a Mary Sue at times. But just this you know, almost hateful treatment of her from the writers is just like Bright being like, no, wait, no, don't hate Korra. Look how much she's suffering. And that can be used. A character's suffering can be used to enact sympathy. But when it's done just to make them suffer, to make them grow, you done goofed. But even every other character, Asami, Bolin, Mako, Lin, Tenzin, all of Tenzin's kids, Pema, Boomy, Kia, all these characters never had any character arcs. And this is something very important. A character arc shows the character's growth over a period of time. Generally, over the course of an entire series, they have a character arc, or multiple character arcs. These characters do things. You remember how in book 1, how Tenzin was very much specifically talking about, you know, the freedom of airbending and, you know, the movements, the smooth stuff. In book 2, he becomes a totalitarian douchebag, and he basically wants to turn Milo into some sort of, like, order-barking soldier or something, commanding an army of lemurs. And I'm just like, what the hell is this subplot even supposed to be about? This isn't even airbending. This goes against everything airbending is. And Tenzin's supposed to represent airbending. He learned directly from Aang. And Aang would never teach you to control people. Oh, but I'm sorry. Aang is just an a-hole douchebag father. I forgot they talked about that in book 2. Oh. Korra at times did make some fantastic progress. In book 1, there were several moments where she did, like episode 7. I thought episode 7, when I was first watching this, I thought this was going to turn around all this bullcrap with the romance. I seriously thought that. Asami's father, Hiroshi, was revealed to be an equalist. Asami kicked his butt and the lieutenant's butt and sided with them, with the crew. Korra made one of the biggest pieces of progress she ever, and this is the biggest progress she ever made in any season. She told Mako to go to Asami. We know she still has a crush on Mako. She says, go to Asami, she needs you. That, right there, after her becoming friends with Asami, despite the fact that it was poorly done, friends with Asami, she tells Mako to go to Asami because Asami needs him. Because he's her boyfriend and not Korra's. Thank you. That was great. And then what do? They literally go back on this the next episode. It's like none of this happened. And all of a sudden, Mako's flirting with Korra again. I'm just like... In episode 10, we have, Asami, I'm guessing, supposed to be unrightfully pissed. And like, yeah, her boyfriend's flirting with Korra. Yeah, she has a right to be pissed and to tell him to screw off. That's what I'm talking about, them not having character arcs. The character arc shows progress, or shows a path the character is going along. Legend of Korra, these characters just do stuff. They do stuff. They might make progress, but then they'll do something completely random that completely contradicts all the progress they've made. Some characters don't even get progress. Bolin, he stopped mattering after the Spirit of Competition. For the rest of the show, for the rest of Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, and Book 4, he is simply there because he was listed as a main character in Book 1. Same with Mako, same with Asami. They're never treated as main characters. They're never actually given proper character arcs. They're literally especially in Book 2, they just threw plot lines around, just like, well, we hope something sticks, and then they didn't commit to anything. Mako being a cop, well, he ended up being one of the main focuses of the entire season. He overtook Asami's... I'm so mad that he overtook Asami's Future Industries arc, because, his cop arc is so much more important. And then, and we still don't know what happened to Future Industries, because they literally, after Book 2, they just drop it, and it's suddenly all the problems that Future Industry had, being on the brink of collapse in the end of Book 2, just gone. Because who cares? That was one of the biggest plot lines I was looking forward to in Book 2. I was legitimately looking forward to this. I was thinking they could screw up this other stuff with Korra and Makura and stuff. But Asami's got to have her plotline of rebuilding her father's company, right? Nope. Not at all. She gets screwed over. She's just some innocent doe-eyed girl going, oh my gosh, Varric's going to help me. Even though he's maniacally going, I'm going to steal everything. And Asami's just like, he's so nice. There's no character arc for any of these characters, and there's no development at all. There's no development for any of these characters. Even Sokka. Sokka had development back in Book 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. He starts off being kind of misogynistic. Kind of a douchebag. But once he meets Suki, and he actually gets his butt kicked, and he realizes that he was sitting on his own little pedestal of high-horsing himself as, I'm a man. And then, he became much, much more respectful after that. And sure, he may make the occasional crack about stuff, but, not mean-spirited anymore. And it shows his development. And even in Book 1, he developed. Even Book 1, Katara developed. And you see Katara's development, not just as a character, but also as a waterbender. Because she could barely move water right in the beginning of Book 1. By the end of just Book 1, she's fighting, is it Paku? She's fighting the master of the Northern Water Tribe. She loses, but, she still put up a pretty good fight. And that's mightily impressive, especially the fact that she could, even midway when she fought Jet, she froze Jet. It's like, these are skills that she couldn't have even dreamed of in the beginning of the season. And then by the end of Book 3, even by the end of Book 2, Katara always had these awesome fight scenes at the end of the seasons. And especially when she was fighting Azula, and she had the, water tentacles and stuff, and she was, grabbing Azula. She would have beaten Azula had Zuko not interfered. And then in Book 3, in the finale, she actually beats Azula. I mean, Toph goes from being, rough and tumble, I don't care about anyone, being just she was kind of a dick. I mean, she still ended up being kind of a dick, but it was more that Tony Stark kind of fun kind of a dick, where she really does care. Toph, and it was great. I don't really think she developed as much as the other characters. Well, But still, she developed, and she did learn, because she was trying to teach Aang earthbending from her point of view. And when you're dealing with an airbender who is philosophically diametrically opposed, in terms of how they think, you need to be able to understand how to translate this, and how Katara was telling Toph how positive reinforcement works for Aang. And, and her learning that, okay, maybe my way isn't the only way. And, stuff like that. We get these small developments, and did everything go right? No. We had that little random crush that Toph had on Sokka that didn't really go anywhere, and we never really got any explanation. It was just kind of dropped, which I'd be glad if they dropped it and didn't shove any, romance drama with Suki, because... And I'm glad that she got along with Suki even during that time. And, it is great. We get this nice development. And by the end of the series, you can see how much they've changed and how much they've grown as people. And that's the beauty of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's really a journey. It really is a journey to experience this show. Watching Legend of Korra, it's like... haphazard is the best word to describe it. It doesn't know what it is, it doesn't know what it wants to do, and it doesn't have any real plan, which is why everything's just kind of jumbled together, on top of the fact that each season is completely separate from the other ones, without having any chance to build up, so we don't get any great build up with Zuko, and Ozai, and other villains like Zhao, and Jet, and stuff, and all these other minor characters and minor villains. We don't get any build-up because it also don't have a full-length season. That's their fault for not planning for 13 episode seasons. So overall, which had better story? Avatar: The Last Airbender. It may have been a simple overall story, but its individual stories, the stories of its characters, the character development, and each character arc, each story arc individually, like the Ba Sing Se story arc, was more interesting than anything Legend of Korra did. Tales of Ba Sing Se was a better episode than anything. I mean, the first 4 episodes of Legend of Korra were good, but that's not enough for a show. Well, not enough for a full-length show, or a miniseries or something, but those 4 episodes were the start of something great that were completely wasted. Avatar: The Last Airbender maintained its quality, occasionally dropping, but not every show, even the best of shows, are going to have a few episodes that you're going to be like, I'd rather not rewatch that. But overall, Avatar: The Last Airbender had nothing but good episodes. Even watching stuff like the Great Divide, it's not that great of an episode. It honestly has a really awful morale to it, but you can still rewatch it, and it's still better than a lot of stuff from Legend of Korra. And that's just it. The writers really made Avatar: The Last Airbender special in the way that Bright never could with... Well, they could have, if they had let other people help them with writing, and had other people basically in charge of writing, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. But they didn't. They took complete creative control and drove their series into the ground. And now they're beating a dead horse with all these scrappy comics. Even going so far as to ruin the Last Airbender characters. So yeah. There was just no real care given to Legend of Korra. If you had the same writing team, even just someone like Giancarlo Volpe, just one person was in charge. We saw the wonders that Giancarlo Volpe and his team did in Green Lantern the animated series, and from my video, or was that the video I did with Angel Rain? We love that show. It was one of my favorite shows of all time. He could have made Legend of Korra special, but Bright were in charge and they screwed the pooch. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Avatar: The Last Airbender is just a better show on every front. Outside of production values, Legend of Korra sucks compared to it. Legend of Korra sucks on its own too. It has a lot of great it has a lot of great production values. It has better animation. The music is great. You know, the art style is cool, and a lot of the details. They're so great. Mostly in book 1. Past, you know, some of the other later seasons, even still done by Studio Mer. Gosh, I always forget what studio did Legend of Korra. You know, book 1 still to me is the best animated series, the best animated season of Legend of Korra. But even with slightly lesser animation and being made, are we hitting 11 years now? Avatar: The Last Airbender is still one of the best American cartoons ever made, and I don't hesitate to say that. When Legend of Korra, it's been pretty much forgotten already. It's in a few years, people aren't going to remember Legend of Korra. They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, that was on a little bit." And when we look back, people are going to look back and go, "I watched Legend of Korra? Man, this show sucks." But that's hindsight for you. Even now, people are starting to realize that maybe Legend of Korra wasn't as great as Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I digress. So, if you have a topic you want me to talk about, if you're on YouTube, just comment below with the topic. If you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and do topic, and then whatever you want me to talk about. Just make sure that it's about something fictional. I don't want any real world topics. And to make sure it's something specific enough so that I can have a video to talk about. Thank you for watching.